Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Great to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Today we're taking a really fascinating journey, I think. We're looking at the legacy of Pope Francis.
Hmm.
Specifically, we want to focus on his, extraordinary commitment to dialogue, unity across faiths, and his work on humanitarian causes.
A huge undertaking.
It really is. And our sources for this deep dive are pretty rich. We've got everything from official Vatican decrees on Christian unity,
Right, the formal stuff.
exactly, to detailed reports from his travels, some of which were, frankly, quite risky.
Definitely.
And even, interestingly, reflections on how he saw things like poetry and art as ways to connect people.
Yeah, that's a fascinating angle.
So, our mission today is really to unpack how Pope Francis managed to navigate these incredibly complex religious and sometimes political landscapes.
Which were often intertwined, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll look at the specific steps he took, the sort of principles guiding him, and what made his approach to bridge building feel, different.
And I think it's important to say this isn't just looking back, is it? Understanding his approach, it offers a really powerful model, I think, for how we can build bridges today.
In such a fragmented world, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll be highlighting the tangible outcomes,
Hmm.
the real world impact of these dialogues, how it moved beyond just talk.
Okay, great. So let's kick things off with this idea of ecumenism and Pope Francis's vision for Christian unity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ecumenism, just for anyone maybe not familiar, it's basically the movement pushing for more cooperation, eventually unity among Christian churches.
Right.
Our sources mention this deep desire for union. One theologian even quipped it might only fully happen the day after the final judgment.
Yeah, bit of
Correct.
theological humor there.
Right. But the key thing from Francis, it seems, was that even if the final destination is far off, the work now means we have to walk together, pray together, and work together.
Exactly. That's the core of it. It's about the journey itself.
So it's not just waiting for the end goal.
Not at all. And that phrase, the desire for unity, desiderium unitatis in Latin, that's really the spiritual engine behind it all.
Okay.
It comes straight from Christ's prayer that they may all be one. What Pope Francis did, I think quite uniquely, was to really prioritize that walking together.
The practical side.
Yes, the practical cooperation, the shared spiritual life,
Mm.
sometimes even putting that slightly ahead of sorting out every single theological difference immediately.
Interesting.
He seemed to understand that building relationships, building trust, that creates the groundwork, the fertile soil for the deeper theological understanding later.
And he really put this into action, didn't he? We've got a couple of big milestones in our sources that show this.
Mhm.
One is the 60th anniversary of the Second Vatican Council's decree on ecumenism, Unitatis Redintegratio.
A landmark document.
Absolutely. It basically said, look, the same core Christian faith can actually be expressed in, genuinely different forms and ways across different traditions. That was huge back then.
A massive shift in perspective.
And then another key moment. The 30th anniversary of the Common Christological Declaration with the Assyrian Church of the East.
Right, this one's amazing.
It effectively sorted out doctrinal debates that had been going on for, get this, 1,500 years.
15 centuries.
Since the Council of Ephesus, simply by recognizing that their different ways of talking about Christ's nature were actually compatible.
It's incredible when you think about it, resolving something that old.
Mm.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, this commitment led to really remarkable results through the Joint Commission for Theological Dialogue.
Okay, tell us more about that.
Well, for instance, back in 2001, they reached an agreement on the anaphora of the Apostles' Adai and Mari. It's a really foundational liturgical prayer.
Right.
And the agreement allowed, in certain situations, for shared sacred communion between Catholics and the Assyrian Church of the East.
Wow, that's a massive step.
Monumental. Unthinkable for centuries before that. Then, fast forward to 2017, they issued a common declaration on sacramental life. And just a couple of years ago, a paper on the images of the Church in the Syriac and Latin traditions. This laid crucial groundwork for understanding how each church sees its own structure.
So deep theological work was still happening.
Oh, absolutely. Theological dialogue is essential for unity in faith, but Francis always insisted it had to go hand in hand with what he called the dialogue of charity and the dialogue of life.
Head and heart, you mean?
Exactly. You need both. It can't just be intellectual.
That makes sense. It's not just agreeing on paper, it's connecting as people. And this is where it gets, I think, really touching, the role of saints.
Ah, yes, this is a beautiful gesture.
Our sources highlight this really symbolic but also practical step, announcing that St. Isaac of Nineveh would be included in the Roman martyrology.
Now, St. Isaac is hugely venerated in the Syro-Eastern tradition, a recognized teacher across traditions.
And the Roman martyrology is essentially the official list of saints for the Catholic Church, right?
That's right. So including him was described as a gift, a signpost towards full communion. It's like saying, look, these holy figures already unite us in spirit in heaven. Let's acknowledge that shared heritage here on earth too.
That's powerful.
It really is. It makes that ultimate vision, the hope that friendship between our churches continue to flourish into the blessed day when we will be able to celebrate together on the same altar. It makes it feel much more tangible somehow.
Like a concrete step on that long road.
Precisely.
And to sort of cap off the spirit, our sources mention the simple act of praying the Our Father together. Each tradition in its own language, but praying the same core prayer. It's a lovely metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Walking together, different expressions, same goal.
A beautiful illustration of that walking together principle.
Okay, so now let's broaden out from Christian unity. Because Pope Francis also left, well, an unprecedented mark on dialogue with North Africa and the Middle East.
He certainly did.
And this wasn't just polite diplomacy. Our sources make it clear he often put his own safety on the line to build these bridges.
Absolutely. That historic trip to Iraq in 2021 is maybe the prime example.
Right. During the pandemic, lots of security concerns.
Huge concerns. In fact, Pope Francis himself later confirmed in 2024 that he actually narrowly escaped a double attack planned by jihadists in Mosul during that trip.
Wow, I didn't realize it was confirmed like that.
Yeah, it really highlights the personal risk. But the image most people remember is probably his meeting with Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani.
In Najaf, yes.
In his home, in his very humble home, beyond the huge religious significance of that mutual recognition, that image sent a powerful message.
What was the core message there, do you think?
Well, a key part was showing deep commitment to ensuring full citizenship rights for Iraq's Christian minority.
Who are, as the sources say, small now, but ancient.
Exactly. And they had suffered terribly. Persecution, forced exile. The historian Sami Zubaida noted this was about supporting Christians still facing threats. Sinan Antoun's novel Ave Maria apparently captures those dilemmas really vividly.
Right.
And al-Sistani's public statement afterwards that all Christians have the same rights as Iraqis, such as security and freedom, that was incredibly significant in that context.
A clear statement of solidarity. And what's striking is it wasn't just Shiite engagement, was it? He also reached out significantly to the Sunni world.
Definitely. You saw that clearly in his 2019 visit to the United Arab Emirates.
The Abu Dhabi document signing.
Exactly. The document on human fraternity for world peace and living together, a joint declaration calling for peace, religious freedom, mutual respect, really pushing for a shared vision of humanity.
And then Egypt in 2017, that seemed equally significant.
Hugely impactful. There was that image of the heartfelt embrace with Grand Mufti Ahmed Al-Tayeb of Al-Zahar Mosque.
A major center for Sunni Islam.
Crucial. And Francis was very clear in distinguishing religion from violence, always invoking peace. But what was really remarkable
Go on.
was that in Egypt, described by our sources as being under a ferocious military dictatorship with huge economic problems, 30% living on less than $1 a day.
A very difficult context.
Very. And he boldly repeated the slogan from the 2011 uprising: bread, freedom, and social justice.
Wow, that took courage.
Immense courage. A powerful, almost revolutionary statement for a visiting religious leader in that situation.
And we shouldn't forget the Coptic community during that same Egypt visit.
No, absolutely not. That 2017 trip also saw an agreement with the Coptic Patriarch Tawadros II on the mutual recognition of baptisms.
Which our sources call unprecedented.
It really was. a huge step forward, bringing the Catholic and Coptic churches much closer by formally saying, yes, your baptism is valid in our church and vice versa.
And talk about courage again. Didn't he celebrate Mass somewhere particularly poignant?
He did. She celebrated Mass in a church that had been attacked just months before, in December 2016.
So soon after.
Yes, and our sources say he did it defying any precaution. No armored vehicles, just weeks after separate Palm Sunday attacks had killed 47 people.
That's an incredible act of solidarity.
And trust. It spoke volumes.
And widening the lens even more, there was the Morocco visit in 2019.
The first ever by a pope, ahead of the Church of Rome.
He met King Mohammed VI, and they formed an alliance against extremism and also a document specifically about Jerusalem.
Yes, aiming to help preserve Jerusalem as a commonplace and heritage of humanity. You see this pattern across incredibly diverse places.
So how does all this connect back to the church's sort of official thinking on dialogue?
Well, you can trace a clear line back to Nostra Aetate. That's the big Second Vatican Council document from 1965 on relations with non-Christian religions.
Okay.
It states very clearly that the Church looks with esteem upon Muslims. It recognizes their worship of one God, their reverence for Jesus as a prophet, Mary as his mother, shared moral values.
So the foundation was already there.
The foundation was there. And Nostra Aetate explicitly calls for both sides to forget the past and to commit themselves sincerely to mutual understanding. Francis really took that call and ran with it powerfully.
So what's the common ground he was trying to highlight between, say, Christianity and Islam?
Our sources suggest pointing to the idea of a single source and a single father. Inspiring stories from creation onwards in both traditions, shared figures like Abraham, shared concepts like mercy, the afterlife.
Finding that fundamental shared spiritual core.
Exactly. Recognizing that shared DNA, if you like.
Okay, so moving beyond the purely religious dialogue, Pope Francis was also consistently a fierce advocate for human rights.
Very much so.
Especially around conflict and migration. Let's get into his response to some of these really tough global issues.
Right. His reaction to the Gaza conflict, particularly after October 7th, 2023, is described in our sources with the word laceration, a deep sense of being torn by it.
You could feel that pain.
You could have. In his Easter Sunday, Urbi et Orbi blessing, in 2025, that's the big blessing to the city and the world, he called for true disarmament. He called the humanitarian crisis in Gaza ignoble.
But he also mentioned the hostages.
Yes, he also asked for the release of the Israeli hostages. And apparently he was making daily phone calls to Father Gabriel Romanelli, the parish priest in Gaza, showing that very personal level of concern.
And then there was that statement in late 2024?
Yes, in November 2024, he called for an investigation to assess whether it was genocide in Gaza, and he referred to Israel's actions as immoral.
Now, that obviously provoked strong reactions.
It certainly did, and our sources acknowledge this. There was criticism from some Israeli authorities. Prime Minister Netanyahu didn't comment on the Pope's passing, and condolence posts from Israeli embassies were reportedly deleted at the Foreign Ministry's request.
But not universal condemnation.
No, President Isaac Herzog, for instance, made positive comments about the Pope's role in promoting ties with the Jewish world. So varied reactions. And just to be clear, for you listening, we're presenting this information from our sources impartially. We're not endorsing any specific viewpoint, just reporting on the content and the reactions described.
That's crucial context, thank you. And then there's his stance on migration. This was a constant theme, wasn't it?
Absolutely constant and deeply felt. His message about the humanization of migration, it goes right back to his very first trips as Pope.
To Lampedusa and Lesbos?
Exactly. Islands that became tragic symbols of the refugee crisis. He famously called the Mediterranean an open-air cemetery.
Such a stark phrase.
It was. And he backed it up with actions, very personal ones. He met the family of Alan Kurdi.
The little Syrian boy found on the beach in Turkey.
Yes, in 2015. He emphasized the tragedy of a refugee who would have had every right to be welcomed. He was constantly meeting volunteers from sea rescue NGOs like Mediterranean and activists, filmmakers like Matteo Garrone, whose film Io Capitano tells migrant stories. He gave them a platform.
But this wasn't always popular, was it?
Not at all. This very empathetic, activist approach, our sources note, cost the pontiff the hostility of autocrats and populists.
Like the Trump administration.
Yes, policies like the Muslim ban were cited as examples. His message directly challenged a lot of prevailing political narratives, so he faced significant pushback.
So connecting all these threads, dialogue, human rights, standing up for the vulnerable, what does this tell us about how we communicate, how we understand each other across divides? Interestingly, our sources also point to art and poetry.
Yes, as a bridge to dialogue. This really links back to his own life and deep beliefs.
He really valued literature.
Profoundly. He even published a document called Long Live Poetry, seeing literature as a support for relating to the world.
I didn't know that.
And get this, when he was just 28, he actually taught literature and creative writing at a Jesuit school.
No.
Yes. And apparently he even gave some writings by his students to the legendary Argentinian writer Luis Borges.
That's amazing.
Isn't it? He had this idea of desbordar. It means sort of overflowing or getting out of limits.
Right.
The idea that the experience of God, or maybe the full human experience, it's always bigger than we can fully grasp rationally. But poetry helps us express it, helps us reach for it.
Ah, I see.
Our sources even mention Baudelaire describing the painter Rubens as an example of how poetry can stir life and meaning in ways simple prose can't.
And this isn't unique to Francis, is it? Didn't John Paul II also have artistic leanings?
He absolutely did. His background in theater and rhapsodic poetry, from his time as an actor and playwright, it reflected, as the sources say, profound spiritual and philosophical research.
So it all comes back to finding different ways to connect.
Exactly. Whether it's theological agreements, diplomatic meetings, humanitarian action, or even poetry. It's about looking, as one source puts it, the interlocutor in the eye, finding empathy, connecting on a human level.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, art, poetry, literature, they offer a different kind of reasoning, a different language of mutual knowledge. They're ingredients, maybe, to heal man and always save him from obscurity. They tap into something deeper.
Wow. Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, it's just incredibly clear that Pope Francis carved out a really unique, really impactful legacy, constantly pushing for unity, for understanding, often against huge challenges, facing opposition, even, as we heard, personal danger.
His pontificate really stands as this powerful testament, I think, to the idea that knowledge is most valuable when understood and applied.
It's not just theory.
Not just theory. It shows that real dialogue, it needs more than words. It needs action, courage, deep empathy, and that willingness to actually confront the big humanitarian crises head on.
He really showed us the power, didn't he, of just embracing our shared humanity, whether that was through complex theological talks trying to unite Christians, or those powerful symbolic gestures of reconciliation with Islam and other faiths, or just tirelessly standing up for the most vulnerable people.
He did. Which brings us, I suppose, to a final thought for you, our listener.
Yeah.
How can these principles we've talked about, that idea of walking together, praying together, and working together, or finding common ground through shared human experiences, even through art, how could those be applied in your own life to maybe bridge some divides, foster a bit more understanding in your community, or maybe even further